So, hi everyone, welcome. This is Ardon Toonstra from FHIR, and I will be your moderator for this session. I will keep an eye on the Q&A and the chat of Zoom. And I would like to give the word to José. So José, if you can take over the screen and put on your camera.
Hi everyone. So welcome to this Let's Build session. We are going to walk through today a couple of steps to set up an implementation guide from scratch and adding a couple of fancy features. Let's just get to it. Before we start, so a quick introduction about myself. So I'm a consultant. I'm working with IMEC and a couple of institutions in Belgium, where I'm based, and that's it. So where we come from, so in the previous session, for those of you who attended.
Sorry, José, can you share your screen?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought I was sharing my screen. And you should have it now.
Yeah, it's coming up. Thank you.
So we have in the previous session we were discussing how we came to produce more and more implementation guides in Belgium. It's all about collaboration and automation. So this is a bit of the technical tricks that we use to have more collaboration and more automation to enable fast growth. So this part is part of a big picture, which is how do we get more and more materials out there. And today we are going to focus on setting up an implementation guide from scratch. For those of you who haven't done it, it's extremely easy. There's a couple of dependencies, and I have a question for you, but that's the first step. The second step is that we will mix the FHIR resources, so the FHIR typical conformance resources, the JSONs and the XMLs that come from Forge, for example, or that you can change, edit in Notepad. And you can put those along with the Sushi content, so it's the fish files. So that's something that we are going to see. How do you do that? So how you can make an implementation guide with both Sushi content and, let's say, normal FHIR resources. We will also use a local template to change colors and logos. That's extremely easy to do once you get to know it. And then we'll add some more fancy stuff like adding some diagrams. It's a new feature. And it's the last bit. I hope to get to it. It's adding a feedback form. Currently, it only works in the Belgian template because it needed some code and it cannot be done on local template. But depending on your feedback and the feedback of the rest of the community, that's something that I would be glad to share with others how that is done. So there's a lot of documentation to be done on that. But today, hopefully we can just use something out of the box. The first question that I have is, or the first request that I have is, at any time, please interrupt for questions and for things that are not working or things that are not clear. So please interrupt at all times. We are going to start with setting up the repository, and I do expect some questions. And one of the first things that I need to ask is the dependencies. For those of you who are new to the implementation guides, some of you asked, and I don't know if everyone read, you should have Jekyll installed in your system. So if you have Jekyll installed in your machine, you can. I presume that covers all the underlying dependencies. But if not, then you will not be able to do this locally, which is not a big issue because the documentation. I hope the documentation speaks for itself. So what I have done is making a making of, so a series of steps in GitHub so that you, at any time after this session, you can go to GitHub and say, okay, I don't know how I get from step 1 to step 3. So let me just get to step 3 and let me see if it builds. Or let me start with step 1. And then if it builds, then I know I'm doing the right thing. Or let me try to change myself and then I add my own logo. So you can replay this session, not only by playing the video, but actually by looking at the artifacts and seeing, okay, these 3 files are the ones that need to change if I want to change the colors, or these 5 files are the ones if I need to change the logos, for example. That is there for you, and we'll get through this during this presentation. But first, a question: is there anyone that does not have Jekyll installed or that has never been built an implementation guide locally? Just put it on the chat or somewhere. It's not a problem. It's just for us to be aware on the pace of this session. I don't see anything in the chat. So can I presume that everyone has the right tools in place and everyone can build an implementation guide? Good. So the first thing that you do is to set up a repository in GitHub. So that's the basic thing. So we always start with GitHub. You can actually have an implementation guide locally and not having it on GitHub, but then you lose all the fun and you lose all the sharing. So there's no point to that. So first thing that you would do is to set up a repository. Let me just create one. DevDays COVID vaccine. I'm just going to make it public. If you don't put it public, the continuous integration build does not work. So you can add a README and a git ignore, and you can choose a license, just Creative Commons or anything else that you want to have. So that's the first bit. Then you would add a README file. I actually will just copy the README file from the other repository if you don't mind. It's easier than to type the whole thing. So I'll just go and change this one. So the repository for which you will have the links in the presentation, it's just the ready thing. So it's just the final result. And I'm just going to create a repository. And this should be like HL7 because I'm just making the same repository name in a different space. And this should be okay. So what I have in my README file is just, it's not critical for the way it works, but this is just a continuous build that when it works, it will be published here. And then for the feedback feature, it's interesting to have the issues and the Kanban board, which we'll set up. Actually, I can set it up now. So if you want to have a Kanban board, regardless of whether you have this feature that I'm going to show, the feedback form or not, I think it's always a good idea to set up a form. You just go to projects inside your repository, and then you just create a project, and that's it. DevDays go COVID issues. And that's it. And then you just add the columns. So I'm just going to create a column called inbox. This is some automation that I might use later, depends if time allowed. So I'm just going to add the usual stuff, the to-do, the work in progress, and the done. So this is it. We just create a Kanban board. So from now on, if you have an issue that you want to remind yourself, oh, I have to do this, then you just go to issues and you create it there. And there's a bit of the automation missing. That the part that I have to do later in this session is that let me just create one issue. Create empty IG. So I just created a repository. The next step is going to be to create an empty implementation guide. So I just create the issue, but I cannot forget to put it here on the project, which is the COVID. Oops. This is on the projects. Where is it? Yeah, this one. So once I assign it here, I can submit the new issue and I can go to my projects board here, and you'll see that there should be, yeah, there it is. So I just created an issue. The other feature that I have is just a way to facilitate that entry. So, but this is the basic stuff. You just create this project, you create the repository, and you're good to go. The next thing that you might want to do, depending if you want to, you can do it in the beginning or you can do it later, is to set up the continuous integration build. So for this, you have here in the slides, there's a link here. I'm just going to open it, and it's really simple. Everything is automatically done. So you just have to go there and select the where is it? Oh, that's, yeah. So you go here. Let me close this one. And you go to settings and you go to webhooks. And you add a webhook where you just create that actually that I just pasted. You make sure that this is application JSON. The rest you leave as it is. So just a push event, enable SSL and make it active. And that's it. So from now on, this is going to every time that you commit something here, it's going to trigger a build on the continuous integration of FHIR. My recommendation is to do this once you have your implementation guide, once you know that it works correctly locally. We'll see that for those of you who don't know it, we'll see that soon. But so let me just actually change that webhook and just deactivate it for a second. So we set up the CI build, so that's where we are now. The feedback mechanism we'll be adding later. So now we have to set up one implementation guide locally. So the first trick here is, so choose a folder for your implementation guides. If you are going to do more than one, and I do a bit more than one, I have all those implementation guides into the same folder. So for me, it's the C implementation guides folder, where I have a couple of stuff. And there is, for those of you who have not so much disk space or do not want to download the jar, the publisher jar for every time that you have an implementation guide, there is a feature in the scripts that you don't have to do it. So you have, for example, this is the one that's already made. You have the implementation guide for the COVID vaccine here. So you have the materials there. And if you don't have the publisher, because the publisher actually resides on this top level. So if you have many implementation guides that you're working on, it's good idea not to have one jar for everything. So one jar for each implementation guide, but just to have one jar for everything. So the scripts can help you there. So how do you make an implementation guide, or how can you create an implementation guide? Very simple. You either use Sushi -i, so the thing that Chris was telling yesterday how to set it up, or you just get an empty implementation guide from, for example, from this repository. Or what I'm going to do now is to just go and check the result that I had yesterday. So what I did in preparation for today, and you'll see this throughout the presentation today, and you can follow this. And this is the part that you can replay whenever you want after this presentation. You go to this commit here, and this commit, this will show you the status of the implementation guide in a first phase. So basically you have, actually that's, let me just go back here. I think I got the wrong link, but I will fix it. So the commit here should be on the branch, and indeed, just the first link is already wrong. The other ones I was happy to see that they were working, but there is, this is commit, and I can go to history. So the link that you should have there is this one. So basically, this is the, I don't know why it's not there. My apologies. This must have been a typing mistake. I'm going to put a new link on the chat for everyone. So if you go here, you will see the commit as it was when I made it, and you can do this all the time. So you can see the code at a given time stamp. So you say this is the commit that I want to start with, and this is your very basic configuration of an implementation guide. So this is something that works, that builds out of the box. If you don't build this, then it's your problem. It's your computers that's not correctly configured. If it works, then you're okay. So what I will do now is to set my machine, just to make sure that my machine is in order. I'll set my machine to that commit. I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do, because I have the repository already set up on my machine. So I can have this works, and then I can go to my, just do this. I just open the Explorer here, and I have this here. So if you're making the implementation guide, if you're starting from scratch, whether you start from Sushi or whether you get that repository, one of the repositories that I mentioned to you, this is what you are going to get. Maybe with a Git, actually this template should not be there. It doesn't add anything, but I'll just remove it. Actually, let me see if I did remove it well. Yeah, so it's correct. Then you just click the Gen ones. So if you don't have the publisher, sorry, the first time that you will run it, you will not have the jar there. That's okay. What you will do first is to click the, well, you can click the Gen ones, and it will give you an error because it's not found. That's okay. You just click the update publisher, and it will ask you, do you want me to publish this, to get this? And I will say yes. And what it's doing, it's putting the jar on my input cache folder. So it's going to download it. And I'm just pressing F5 on my machine. So it's done, it's ready. So from now on, I have the publisher on this implementation guide. As I said before, I prefer not to have it here, and I will just copy this to the top folder, but it doesn't change anything for what we are going to do. So I could paste it here, but I'm not going to bother with this for now. So I'm going back there. Now I can do the Gen ones. Once you do the Gen ones, it starts a whole publication thing. So this implementation guide, it has nothing. It has no resources, just a couple of empty pages. It just shows that it works. So it takes 2 minutes. So I'm just going to show this one. I'm not going to build every step, but I'm going to show you just this once how it works. So it gets the dependencies, it does the whole preparation, and it just starts publishing. So it takes on average 2 minutes, depending on the speed of your machine. If you're using the here's something that I do sometimes when things are slow. I go to my Windows security settings and exclude the implementation guides path from my antivirus check. You should not do this unless you're really sure what you're doing. But if it's really slow and if you are really confident that there is nothing there that is dangerous, then you can do that. So yeah, it builds. So after it builds, what you have is that you now have a folder called output. And in the output folder, you have a file called index.html. That's your starting page for your implementation guide. This is what we have. So this is using the Belgian template. I will get there in a second. This is the standard thing that I'm using for this session. And it has just simple table of contents with some downloads, change history, and artifact summary. All of those pages are just empty pages because there is no content here. And you can see that there's a couple of XXX. So X marks the spot. That's the things that you need to change if you want to adapt your implementation guide, which is actually the next step. So the next step is going to be to change this. So let's see how we will change this. So I'm just going to open this. You see, I want to change the ID. I want to change the URL of this. So all of these things that I've marked with XXX, those are the things that you typically want to change. So what I will do now, and for those of you who are playing with this, who are already doing this on your machine, change it to what you want. What I'm going to do now is to just fast forward a bit and just import the changes from my repository. So that's just the, let me just close this window. And this one, I can do this. So I'm just going to move this forward to the next commit. I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm just going to do this, and now I have the updates there. This should be different now. You see, just it changed now to DevDays. So this is easier than or faster than me typing, but it's exactly the equivalent. And if you want to see what I just did, so what's behind the scenes, oh, actually, this is, where is it? I thought it was here. There it should be here. Yeah, indeed, and that's the link that I had. So this is the result. So if you can always go back to this guidance and see what has changed in this step. So the step that I just bypassed very quickly with Git with the Git reset, it just did this. It just says, okay, remove this bit, change this to that thing. that's what you have. So using this, you can very quickly see that I only changed one file. So that's it. So you see the step. And then at every time that you do this, you should build again, just to make sure that, I don't know, if you put the wrong character there, or if you forgot to close this tag, it's always a good step to build locally before committing anything to the repository. So that was step 2, is just to make your implementation guide look like your implementation guide.
So José, we have a question about. Do you know the reason why the building process takes so long?
The building process takes so. I don't think 2 minutes is so long.
Or it can be that I don't understand the question correctly, but it's in the chat.
Is it from Dylan?
Yeah.
On local, I think you mean the local firewall security. No, it's just that it's not the firewall. It's actually the antivirus, the file system that checks every time that you change a file. The antivirus will kick in and say, oh, is this file okay? So it checks all the files. And in an implementation guide, you have hundreds of thousands of links and thousands of files that are changed. So it's really intense for the system to check all those links if you're building an implementation guide. That's why I said if you trust it, then it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so these are the changes in that first step, or that actually second step that you change it. And now we just go forward. So I don't want to build now, I'll build later. So the first thing that you can do, or one of the things that you can do, is to add one template. So so let's add your local template here. As usual, you just go here and you see what is going to change. I hope I did not mess up the numbers. No, this is the right thing. So to add the empty template, this is what you have to do. You have to add a folder that is the name of the template and has a package folder and has a package JSON that has this. There is documentation somewhere in the wiki on these things. This is basically a package JSON file. You have to change your ig.ini file to point not to the Belgian template as I had before, but to the local template. And the local template is signaled by having the hash before and then the name of the template, the name of your folder. So I'm creating a folder called DevDays 2020 template. That's what it is here. And then in there I have the package.json. And that's it. So I just created a local template. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have anything. It just looks exactly the same, but it's a new template now. So if you do this and if it builds, it means that you have successfully changed your template to a local template, and then you can have some fun with the local template. That's what we will do next. So I'm just going to skip that step. I'm not going to do the git reset to that one because I'm just going ahead with the next step, which is adding some colors. Indeed. So once you have the local template, you can create a file called append fragment CSS. So the best thing is just to have something that works. So I'm just going to get it for you, and then I'm just going to show you the files. So this is a change. So you have one CSS file that defines the colors. I'll get there in a second, and you have one HTML that points to the colors. So this is pretty straightforward. You don't have to understand all the details behind this. The only thing that you have to do is that if there's a DevDays, so if this file should be always called the same thing, and it points to a devdays.css that gives its additional CSS information, and this styling information is you have to create it. So basically that's it. And this is the one that I'm going to fast forward my machine to. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, so let's see what changed. I have now in my folder structure, I have my DevDays template, and then I have, you see the devdays.css and the includes. I have that file there. That's all that there is to it, and you can replay it, so you don't have to remember this. You just put this folder there. It's much more efficient to do this than typing this. This file, the one that you can get out of the box as it is from the template or from this GitHub repository, the CSS file shows you what colors it is about. And if you use an editor like VS Code, you can see it makes it easier for you to work on this. So IG status text color, that's the title and the status text color that you see on the beginning of the implementation guide. So let me just show to this. Yeah, so it's this color. Then there's the color of the navigation bar. Then there's the color of the footer and the color of the container of the footer. So the footer is this thing and the container of the footer is this. No, the footer is this and the container of the footer is this one, I think. Yeah, no, the container is the blue one and this is it. There's a bit of trial and error here, but this is how you do colors. So you no longer, since a few months ago, you no longer have to change the colors by going into each individual CSS. No, there is one single CSS that allows you to change the colors, which is much more convenient because you just commit this file and you see all the colors changing. If you delete this, it goes back to the color scheme of your template. So if my template is the Belgian template, it has the standard colors of HL7 Belgium. If you remove the Belgian template, you go to the pink colors. So this is something that you can have on your local template. So that's step 1, change the colors. So actually step 4 already. And what is my presentation? Is this clear what we have to do? Looking for feedback. Anyone on the chat say yes or no? If it's going too fast or too slow.
Clear. Okay.
So especially I hope that the links help, because I don't want to build a file here and then you have to type the same thing on your end. You can always go to these links. You have the presentation. You can always go to these links and do it on your side. The other thing, it's a bit more complicated, but still straightforward if you do it always in the same way. It's to define your logos. So in the Belgian template, I have the Belgian logos there, but I want to replace those logos by my own logos. So what I do is to change some files. That's actually very simple. There is one HTML file that you have to change. Actually, I'll just do the same thing all over again. I'm going to fast forward my machine and see what has changed, and then I'm going to show it on GitHub. So, okay, let me just show the link here that you have. So later, if you want to replay this, you just click on the link and you see, okay, this is what has changed. So I added a fav icon, a favorites icon. That's basic. I added one logo for FHIR, one logo for home, one logo for the search if I need it. And then what really matters is that I have to change this file, or I have to create this file because it was not existing. Remember, my template was empty in the beginning. I have to create a fragment header file that looks like this. And there is some instructions here, but basically you have to say, okay, where's the main link on the left corner going to direct you to, and what's the image that you have there. So, and then this is where you refer to the whole PNG, which is the file that you created, that you have added there. The same thing with the right logo. If you have one, then it's a FHIR.png. And if you have a search, you can uncomment these blocks, this XML object, and just and then you have the search logo. So that's what you can do. You could mess up with the styling, but this is a really simple way. Most people will just need to change the logos and colors, and there is no way to have advanced HTML changes just because of that. So if you fast forward to that, this is what you'll have, and that's what I have. And actually, let me just, now is a good time for building. Oops, not this one. I just go here again, and I go to my implementation guides, my COVID vaccine. There is my files, and I'm just going to gen once. And in 2 minutes or less, I should have this. Meanwhile, I can go forward and do more changes. So for this, so I just added 2 logos and changed the colors. That's what I did. Now, adding standard content. So this is the first part. So how do we put content into our implementation guide? After it looks fancy, how do we put actually the thing that matters, which is the models and resources and so profiles and all these things? How do we do this? Well, you remember the previous sessions we had. We had the session where Arden was explaining how to use Forge for creating these materials. Some things you have to create with Forge or by hand, like logical models. Some things you can create by Sushi. So for the first part, you use Forge or Notepad, and you put this is the folder structure that you have in your empty implementation guide, and you put the pages. So you put the resources. So if it's an example, you put it on the examples. If it's an extension definition, you put it on extensions, and so on. So they have profiles. testing if you want to have test scripts, vocabulary for code systems, but this is just a convention. It doesn't really matter. As long as you put it in one of these folders that are recognized by the template, the template will pick it up and the publisher will publish it. The folders that you should know that are somewhat different is the FSH. This is for fish content, for sushi content. We'll see it right after this one. And the scenarios, it's also special for something that I'm going to show the outcome. Page content is for the pages, and the rest is out. And the resources folder, if you don't want to bother with putting things in different folders, just put everything in the resources folder. I don't like this because I prefer to have the vocabulary work being done on the vocabulary folder, and then I know it's in good hands. I don't have to worry with this. So just a bit of segmentation of work. So I have here a couple of commits. So let me see what they do. I'm just going to open them.
José, we do have I think a short question about step 5 yet, about the modified templates. Can you also put the CSS and logos in a parent folder?
No, no, Mark. If you need to have one thing, one set of changes that you would need to apply to all the IGs, then you would need to have. Good question. I don't know. You can try it by putting this. Let me just show what I would try to do this. To do with this is the following. Where is this? It's here. Go to the ig.ini and try to put this. I'm not sure it will work. I don't think it would, but that would be your first attempt. If it doesn't work, then you have to define your own template. And there are ways to do this, but I don't think I can do this. I can tell you offline how this could work, because basically you just have to, as long as you have your template as a package in your package cache, you are okay with it. But it's still only for your machine. Otherwise, you just have to start the process of creating your own company template, for example. And there's somewhat of a process for that. I have to go through this soon for one project, but I will start with trying this. If it doesn't work, then ping me or ping us on chat, and then we'll follow up. So where were we? First of all, I wanted to show what I had before in the changes. So remember that I was building this before a couple of minutes ago. So you see that there's the new logos. So it's just some images, and the colors have changed to what I had. So this looks different from what I had before, which was this. So this looks different. That's just applying the logo. And now what I was just doing is to add the content. So let me see how that works, how that looks like in the commits that I did. Sorry, I'm not aiming correctly. So this commit, so commit number 6, it adds a logical model. So the only thing that I needed to do is, well, 2 things. So first of all, I needed to create the model. So this is something that I create, for example, by hand or with Forge. And I just create this folder and I put it into the input models and immunization models. So I just put it there. And that's it. Oh, I remember, yeah, that's it. So I just put the file there. And if I do that, then I have my model will show up in my artifacts page. The next thing that I will do is to add more content, which is, yeah, 1 page. So to add pages, so to add the model, you just add the model. To add the pages, you have to do 2 things. First of all, you add the page itself. Where is it? There's the page. And since this page uses, I think this page uses a picture, so there it is. There's a COVID model picture. Then you should always also commit the picture. There it is. So you have the picture, you add the page, XML in this case. And the other thing that you have to do is to go to the menu and see, okay, my menu, this is more HTML. So you have to go through that if you want to change your menu structure. And then you say, oh, I want to change my menu and I want to create my menu to be an overview menu. And there I want to have a link to the overview.html page. So if I create the overview XML page, and if I tell the menu to have a link to this, then that's what I need to do to set up the or to create the page and to show it in the menu. This one I can actually build. So this is build number 7. So I'm just going to do it very quickly. Very quickly. Not this one. So what I just did until now, the accumulation of stuff that I did, I added the template, I changed the template, and I added one model, and I added one page with the menu options. So I'm just going to build again. Oops, where is this? And it's going to build again. To gain time, and while it builds, I'm going to go forward because we don't have much time left. The next thing, you add more content. So I'm just going to click on it just to show it. So you add one more page. No, so you add one example of the immunization, for example, and you add the profile. So you actually add the profiles. So there's an extension and the profiles, and the trick is always the same. You just add it to the folder, and that's it. But since I added this extension, that's something interesting to know. If you add this extension, and this extension is defined or uses something that's defined elsewhere, so if you have dependencies from your template into other templates, for example, if I'm making this for a Belgian project, but I need to depend on the Belgian core templates, like the Belgian patient profile, etc., then I just add the depends on. So I just go to the implementation guide.xml and I just add depends on. So that's what I did here, and I have all my content. So if I build this, I would have all the artifacts. So this is the previous. Oh, it's still building. It's still building. So while I wait for that, I'll just go on with the next steps. The next thing, and you can always, so I'm just going to speed up a bit, adding the change history. This is very simple. You can see what it is to add change history and what it means in terms of impact. Change history is very simple. You just have to create one bundle. You can create different resources, individual resources, but normally you just put one bundle with a lot of provenance resources, and each provenance says, this is the change to this artifact. So if I want to say this is the immunization model has changed or was changed by this person, or was updated by this person with this, it was updated by me, and this is the reason for the change. So if you put a bundle or one or several provenance resources pointing to the resource that it changes, there is something interesting happens in the publication. So this is the N-3 step or something. You remember that I had a page. So this is the page. Now the build is behind what I'm saying. So what I just did now, what I just wanted to do now is to have, let's say, to go to step, what was it? Step 8. No, step 8 is adding the resources, and step 10 is adding the history. So I add the history. And if I do that, so I'm just going to fast forward to step number 10 in my Git thing. And then I can build again. And while I do that, I will show you the final steps of this. So adding the change history is very simple, and I can show you already the final result. This is the result. And if I have, for example, the artifact index, where my conformance resources are, and if I see the, for example, the logical model for immunization, you will see now, and you will see this before and after that commit that I made, that now there's a history tab. So until then, until step 10, there was no history tab. The moment you add this, the publisher says, okay, you need to create a tab here. And this tab shows the history of changes, which is very useful, if not for making one implementation guide and let go of it, but just to maintain it. You see, like, actually I doubled my input, but you have the history of changes to this. And this is all automatic. You don't have to worry with this. You just add the history, and the publisher does the rest for you. So where were we? We had the history, and I wanted to show a couple of things more. Actually, the neat features are at the end, so I beg for your patience. So add some sushi. It's very simple. It's really simple. You just put sushi in the FSH folder. That's the only thing you do. So once you do that, let me show the commit number 11. You take the sushi that was generated yesterday by Chris. You simply add those files into your FSH folder. So here they are. and that will automatically add those things to the content. So that's where, if you do that, you will have the adverse events. So if you remember, Arden was making the profile for immunization, and Chris was doing the profiles for adverse events, and the adverse events will be here. So the extensions, the value sets that Mark was talking about yesterday. So these are all there. You just have to put the Sushi content in the FSH folder. That's it. And a neat new feature, and I think we are getting close to the end of the session, is to add diagrams. So this is a new thing, but you can already enjoy it. If you need to add diagrams, like where is this? Like this one here. So there's a page that has, this is another page, it's just another page, but this page has a diagram. So if I want to generate this diagram, and there's a tool for that, so there's plenty.ml, some of us are using it. If you just want to create those diagrams without making this in Visio or whatever, just out of source. So this text here that you see is the source for that diagram. And you can go to plenty.ml.com if you want to play with it. You can try it out, you can make a diagram, but once you do this and save that file in the images source folder, and you call it whatever, then you just have to use in your XHTML pages, you just use that whatever.svg. So you just change the extension and put this in this expression, this Jekyll, this liquid expression in your pages. And from the moment that you do this, this is generated. So I'm just going to show you the commit number 12, which is what I have here for the diagrams. And the diagrams are there, very easy. And I think we are going to make it right on time. So you see, I just added the source in this images source folder. This is very, very powerful, because if you maintain a diagram, if I forgot something here, I just change it, and it doesn't take me 1 hour to change the diagram. I just change the source, and the whole thing gets recompiled and re-rendered. The same like we did with the other pages. You have to go to the menu and say, there's a new page here that I want to point from the menu. And I have to tell the implementation guy that there is a new page here. So that this is as before. Whenever you add a page, you tell the implementation guy that there is this page, and you add the menu option if you want to do this. And yeah, and that's the page itself. So once you do this, you have this result here. And finally, just as we are entering the final 2 minutes, I just wanted to show you, but the last feature is only available in the Belgian implementation guide. So what you do, and there's one commit that you can play with it, and please give me feedback, because most likely if you start doing this now, there will be some issues. Basically, there's a new feature. There's a feature in the Belgian implementation guide that you can add one YAML file that has feedback true, and if feedback is true, then you give some parameters. This is the part that I need to document further, and it's too long to have. It would need one session just for that alone. But once you put this folder, it's a Google form here, and once you put the dashboard here, the link to the project, which is exactly like you have in this. Where is this? Like this link here. It's exactly the same link here. Once you have this, then so if you fill in that, where was I? Sorry for this, too many windows. Yeah, once you do this, the rest is, you should not really change. Then what you have is this kind of feature, and this is the thing that I was showing in the previous session. It's automatic, so for us it's going to be very useful, because we say, okay, there's a 1 month public review that we want people to review things, and we just ask for feedback, and we just create things, and it shows up in the backlog, which you can check from here. I know we are over time now, or we're finishing our time, and let me see if we have questions or doubts, or if this was.
Yeah, there are still two questions in the chat. There were very nice features you were demonstrating. So perhaps maybe we can answer the question from Dylan, and then I think we are out of time. So.
Okay, so Dylan, I could not understand the first question, so I suggest we can take it offline. This diagram integrating for actor could be used for declaring resources relationships. I do not see the birth care model, but I would like to follow this up online. So the diagram is pretty generic. Whatever diagram you can create there's a couple of dependencies that we still have to fine tune. but you can basically just create the source of the diagram and tell your pages, please use this SVG here, and the publisher does the rest.
Perfect. Thank you very much, José. I think it was a very nice demonstration of the IG publisher.
I hope it was useful for people to just start making their own implementation guides, and feel free to use that to use the links here that you can see step by step, and you can replay it and see what's changed. And then you can, if you have doubts, just ping and call us on chat.fhir.org.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you. I will end the meeting and hope to see you in another session at DevDays.
Thank you very much, all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.